Speckled trout are on the line tonight as Orlando Wilson heads down to the Big Easy to fish the fertile waters of Lake Calcasieu. Now usually we expect these fish to respond primarily to live bait and especially to shrimp. But tonight we'll learn a great alternative as Orlando brings a few monster trout to the surface with topwater lures. But first, Roland Martin is delivering some big-time bass with small water techniques. He's on Georgia's Ford Plantation next.
Boy, he's got it when he's right in that little bitty spot. I didn't know there was any deep water here, but looking at the depth finder, it's 5 feet deep right between this grass here. That's what we're talking about. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. I can tell you honestly, that's a bigger fish than what bit the first time. Come on, boy. Oh, look at that one. Oh, man, alive. A big old 6 or 7 pounder. Monster bass. So, big bass like the one I just caught, they're not a matter of an accident. They're a matter of a planned pond management program. Injection of the right quality water, the right salinity, the right structure, the right water quality in general produces those kind of fish. Let's see if I can't catch another one.
Fishing with Roland Martin is brought to you in part by Chevy Trucks, the most dependable, longest-lasting trucks on the road. By AutoZone, the best parts in auto parts. And by Raytheon Marine, the global leader in marine electronics.
Pretty shallow, waking it along the top of the branches. When I clear the main part of it, drop it down a little bit. There's one. Got him. Big one. Big fish. Yes, sir. That's what it took. Perfect ambush point. Perfect ambush point. This is a testimony to big bass fishery. What we have here is a well-managed lake. And we have really good hot fish. I think that one, I don't know how big. This is a pretty big fish. A testimony of beautiful, beautiful pond management. You know, when you start dealing with good water quality and you start dealing with good structure like we have here, pond management really, really pays off. And we have a testimony right here with this about 5 or so pound bass. We have a really healthy fish here that's probably only about 4 years old. I gotta try to catch and release. Now, the other ingredient of catching big fish like this and maintaining a good fishery is to have a good 100% catch and release program, which they have augmented here. And by keeping 5 and 6 year old fish that are so healthy like this alive and to be caught again another day is what's going to grow those 10-pound fish. Wow, that's a nice one. Okay. Spinnerbait fishing is really one of my locator lures, particularly in tournament competition. I like to use it just to cover a lot of shorelines. Hit the trolling motor, fast but quiet, just move along that shore cover, just to cast every 5 or 10 feet and really cover the water. There's a fish, small one, but it's a bass nevertheless. Good healthy one. Good aggressive fish. Pretty aggressive. That's a pretty big spinnerbait, of course. I don't think the size of a spinnerbait has a whole lot to do with the size of the fish. I think in the hot weather, like we have here, I think big spinnerbaits are a plus. And I think in cold weather, small spinnerbaits are the deal. This is hot summertime. I think any size bass will hit a pretty big spinnerbait because they're more aggressive, metabolism's higher, and I think a big spinnerbait's the deal. But that's why they make so many different sizes for a lot of personal choices with a lot of different colors. To be honest with you, I wouldn't have thought they would hit a white blade as well as they're hitting it today. The only reason, another one hit it. The only reason why I'm using a white blade is that I just happened to pick it up first. No real reason. But they're hitting it just fine. Now, to be effective and to really be on top of your spinnerbait fishing, you need to be willing to experiment. I'm talking about experimenting with all the different blade combinations that you can deal with, all the different size blades as well is the different shape blades and the color combinations as well. There's 50 or 60 different blade size and color combinations right there. Couple that up with 2 or 3 different skirt colors and 3 or 4 different weights of spinnerbaits, you have 150 different choices to work with. But that's the key to spinnerbait fishing, the versatility and experimenting with the right choice. Oh, there's one, big one too. I saw him swirl to begin with. What a way to catch him. That was like the 3rd cast at the same exact spot. But I saw the wake. You know, early in the morning when the water's calm like this, you can really make a lot of interesting observations. And the observation I made on this big old bass was I saw him move. There's a little bit of line of hydrilla here, and I saw him move the water one time. So really by casting back 3 or 4 times, you know, there's a lot of reasons why bass bite, and they don't always bite because they're hungry. This bass bit because I angered him. I threw 3 or 4 casts to the exact same spot, and he hit. Okay, drop it down. You know, when I think back about my career and my fishing, a professional fisherman as I am, fishing tournaments and doing film work, I think of the really great places that I go. And this has to rank. The Ford Plantation has to rank as one of the great places. Now, what I'm talking about, I'm the only person on a 150-acre lake, the only person that day just to fish at will and catch a dozen big bass. I mean, this is bass fishing heaven. And I'm a fortunate person to be able to be invited and to be able to go fish these places. Oh, there's a good strike. Yeah, I love it. I love it. What a neat strike. What a neat strike. We're on the edge of that grass bed. That was a neat one. That's about as neat as can be. I don't know if there's another one there or not. That was a really visual strike, though, right on top. Again, I'm buzzing it for the first few feet, and some of these fish are hitting it right on the grass, right on the top of the grass. Let me see if there's another one there. Buzz it past it. And see if there's another fish there. Keep right on the top. Huh. Well, that log looks like a key spot. I'll ease it over to that log and make a real nice cast to that log. You know, boat control is paramount in being a successful spinnerbait fisherman. A fairly decent spinnerbait fisherman thinks about the boat control right then on that one particular spot. A really great spinnerbait fisherman thinks of the next spot past the one he's fishing, so as he takes his boat from that spot, he's trying to get in position for the next spot, almost like playing pool. And the best of all best spinnerbait fishermen are looking down the lake another 10 casts away, thinking about how to get that far into position. When he's there, he's in the right position for that spot as well. So boat control is a constant thing. Every single cast you're anticipating the next cast, and so on. And we have a really sharp, well-defined edge right here. This drops in about 6 or 7 feet deep, and you know on a bright sunny day what's going to happen with those fish. They're going to get up underneath this shady area, and I'm banking on the fact that it's kind of cloudy right now. It's early in the morning, and they're going to be kind of cruising up and down this edge, hopefully. Maybe one of these big fish that normally live way back underneath there will come darting out and hit this spinnerbait. Oh well, it's a try. You know, people think about structure as a lot of different things, but structure basically can be an edge like this, because structure is that irregular feature. And as the way I define structure is, I define structure as an irregular feature usually connected with a drop-off. You know, usually you have a deep water situation like we have here off these weeds. And it's enhanced by a couple things. Good structure and good cover is enhanced by, number one, its proximity to deep water. That's the first big thing. You need deep water close by. And the second thing that I really think that's important about structure and cover is to have it fairly isolated. In other words, great big monstrous areas of edges like this maybe not as good, but this is just a one little 100-yard stretch. It's a very unique spot. It's a small spot in this whole big pond, and it's not real big. Therefore, it can have the concentration that isolation brings to fishing. You know, folks, I'm a professional fisherman by trade, and I fish a lot of big national tournaments, and that's fine. You're going 50, 60 miles an hour. You're competing with a couple hundred guys, but that gets a little busy. At times, it gets a little bit troublesome. It's work. But, you know, for fun, what I like to do, I like to get a little contemplative. I like to get out by myself, particularly fish small waters. Lakes that are 5 to, say, 150 acres, all by myself. I'm the only person on the lake. I can develop my pattern at my own choosing. I can fish as hard or as fast as I want. No competition involved, just me and nature. Oh, there's a good one. Oh, man, wow. I had a good strike. Oh, I got him again. Boy, he came back and hit it the second time. That's really neat. Really a neat thing. I hit him the first time and I lost him. And now he came back and got it again. What a deal. That's really something. A nice big 4-pounder. He hit it the first time and I had him on. I pulled him a long ways. Unbelievable how, maybe there's 2 fish there. I don't know. I can tell you honest truth, that's a bigger fish than what bit the first time. No, he's not. Look, I want to show you something. See that little titch, that little thing of skin? I'm pretty sure that's where I hooked him the first time because that's kind of loose right there. And then I hooked him the second time right there. A big old 5-pound fish. He came back and hit it again. What a neat deal. That, I guess, unless there's a second fish there. Let me try that again. I threw it right by the edge. It went down. Oh, got him again. That is another fish. I don't know. Maybe there's 3 or 4 there. I don't know. That's about the size of the fish that hit the first time. He's not as big. I'm gonna whole school right here. Maybe that's the deal. When they hit every cast, that's a pretty good indication there's a big concentration of fish. Well, okay. I'm gonna let him go over this side, and so he won't alert the fish. Okay, now there's a big bunch of fish. Not often do you find schools of fish in a pond. We found a school of fish on this pond, and I can see why. It's a little peninsula. I'm gonna throw right there. Kind of let that spinnerbait down slow. Well, now that I have the structure figured out in this lake, now that I know where the drop-off is, I think I can really work on them. Throwing it in shallow, holding my rod up high, waking that spinnerbait out in that 2-foot water. And then when I hit that 3 and 4 and 5 foot drop, I can really slow it down and do what we call a slow roll. Just watch for that line. You know, I'm using not exactly a fluorescent line, but I'm using a clear monofilm, that super mono line that it's pretty visible. And so when I finally go to drop the spinnerbait down, I can really watch that line really well. Watch for that little tick. Quite often what happens, and why you need to watch the line and you don't feel the strike, is because remember, I'm coming away from that drop-off, and the fish is at the drop-off, and so he's going to hit the bait and come towards me. Quite often I won't feel the strike. All I'll feel is the inhale of the fish sucking it in his mouth, and that's the line twitch, and then the line's just going to come and angle away. By that time, it's usually too late because he spits it out. So you got to watch for that little line tick. Watch for that moment that he sucks and flares his gills and sucks that spinnerbait in his mouth. He's only going to hold it in his mouth a second or two before he spits it out, and you have to react before that. You know what you have to realize about the Ford Plantation, this is not just a resort where you come and book a weekend, but rather it's a development community where the participants buy and own property. And it's expensive but very valuable property with a lot of great amenities like this great fishing. And that's why I'm here today, because the pond management and the small waters management is just par excellence. And it really is a great example of the proper management technique. Oh! Good heavens! What do we have here? Good heavens! Oh heavens! Golly day! What a deal! I didn't mean to do that. That thing hit that spinnerbait. Good heavens! One thing you learn real quick when you live in South Florida, and that's how to handle these little turkeys. You got to be careful. They carry a lot of disease, and you get a bad infection. But if you grab him right behind the head like that, he'll be all right. I threw over there by that weed. I didn't see him sitting. I thought it was a log. He grabbed my spinnerbait. Whew, what a deal. Oh. Well, I don't know that I should wash my hands off right there. He's a little bit upset. and they will bite. That was pretty exciting. Messed my spinnerbait up. I swear I just saw the little log. I thought it was a log. It was an alligator. Good heavens in the world. Things happen all the time out here. Wow. Time and time again in big-time tournaments, I've taken a spinnerbait and tried for that first cast on that good ambush point or that good structure or cover, going for that strike, often just shaking them off so that during the tournament I can come back and catch them, say, with a plastic worm or a jig. But the spinnerbait's my locator lure. It was caught on the thing. What it was, there was really something. I was caught on the limb, and he came up and got the thing right off the limb. That was such a cool strike, because I threw out there, and he first hit at it the first time, and then the line was caught on the cedar, and then he came back and got it. That was really just a little old fish, but what an exciting thing. Caught on the limb, and he came and got it right off the daggone limb. That was really a fun, eager, aggressive strike. And that's the thing about these small waters. You're going to find really aggressive, eager bass because basically you're dealing with fish that haven't been fooled with a whole lot. That was so cool. Well, there might be one on the next tree. You know, part of the proper pond management is adding the addition of good structure and cover, and that's what we have here. They've taken a lot of cedar trees and added to this pond in about 6 or 7 feet of water. So what I'm going to do is just kind of roll that bait on the upwind side of it, kind of bump those bushes, and hold on. I got a brand new spinnerbait on, brand new knot. Just see what we can turn up. You know there's some big fish here. And normally this outside deeper cover are going to hold some of your better fish. Oh, I never can tell. Huh, look at that thing. Boy, you talking about a bluegill. Good heavens. That is a bluegill and a half. Huge bluegill. I've been talking to Fuzzy Davis, and Fuzzy Davis says the bluegill fishing here is phenomenal. In fact, he invited me out to do a little bluegill fishing with him. I'm looking forward to that. Fuzzy, I'm so impressed about some of your management practices, particularly the cover enhancement program that you have, and then the water intake and outtake that you have with the sluices that you have. Maybe you could explain that a little bit.
Well, this is a unique lake, Roland, for a number of reasons. It does have about 6 weirs that connect it to the Ogeechee River, and we can open these weirs. Ogeechee's a tidal river, when we have an extreme tide and flush some new water in at certain times of the moon phase when we have an astronomically high tide. And that brings not only oxygenated water in, but it brings a lot of bait fish and a lot of game species in. So it's a very unique watershed in that respect. What we have to do, since it's a tidal river, is monitor the water quality of the Ogeechee, and not water quality per se as far as pollutants, because it's a very clean watershed, but as far as the salinity. So we have a salinity check on the Ogeechee once a week. It's part of our program. And then we can let the water in and let the water out when we need to. And it really makes this particular watershed very, very unique.
One really important point that Fuzzy Davis is bringing out, and that is that this particular lake, Clara, is a total catch and release lake, and there's a very good reason for it. You know, there's a couple hundred really big bass in the lake, but the worst thing you can do in catching and releasing fish is set up some kind of catch and release with an exception. Say, well, because he's 10 pounds or the biggest fish I've ever caught, I'll just keep that one occasional big monster fish. Wrong. That's the worst thing you can do. The worst thing you can do is keep any monster fish. So a total catch and release to preserve it like it is. You know, this is an old lake. I mean, it's been here a long time, and it's successful. And it has the right water quality, the right balance, the right weeds, and the right fish. You can't disturb that balance. You have to throw these fish back and make sure that they're all alive and well to be caught again another day. That's what we're talking about. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Buzzing that thing along the shallow weeds. That was so much fun. That was such a neat strike. That's what small ponds are all about. You have the option of working some really great cover in water, and that one was the one. That was such a beautiful fish. It was such a beautiful strike. Not the biggest fish of the day, but a nice big fish. So the beauty of small waters is that fish right there. That visual action, that waking that spinnerbait. Boy, I tell you, it was just a lot of fun fishing here today. And I want to thank Fuzzy Davis, and I want to thank the Ford Plantation for showing us some great small waters. So remember, Savannah, Georgia, and that area, the next time you're around, give old Fuzzy a call. He can arrange a great either saltwater or freshwater fishing trip. We'll see you again next week, folks. Small waters, big bass. Wow.
Fishing with Roland Martin has been brought to you in part by Mercury, the water calls. By Kmart, we're talking serious fishing here. And by Triton Boats by Earl Bentz, built to last a lifetime.
Scales with me. Oh! Come back. Oh, I lost him! Ah! I didn't get a chance to even... He slipped right out of my hand. Ah, he's daggone it. Oh, wow. Really got me excited.
It has been a great weekend here on TNN Outdoors, and I hope you'll check in next Saturday morning for more education, experience, and expertise from the TNN pros. Turkey Call will take us to its home state of South Carolina for a tour of the Wild Turkey Center and National Headquarters. We'll also learn some gobbler jargon and get a better understanding of the nature of wild turkeys. But right now, let's call it a day as Orlando Wilson goes topside for trout. It's on TNN Outdoors.
I hitched my boat onto the back of my truck. I called a friend and said, let's go try luck. He said, I'm sorry, buddy, I can't go. I'm watching the Orlando Wilson fishing show. I called a gal who was an angler and said, if I don't go fishing, I'll go out of my head. She said, I'm sorry, honey, I can't go. I'm watching the Orlando Wilson fishing show.
Fishing with Orlando Wilson is brought to you by Chevy Trucks, the most dependable, longest-lasting trucks on the road. Pennzoil Marine, the right equipment for fishing. AutoZone, the best parts in auto parts. And by Ranger Boats. We still build them one at a time, so you can fish hard, run strong, and rest easy. Now, let's go fishing with Orlando Wilson.
You know, I'm fishing today with a buddy of mine from Rattle Trap, Ken Chamont. Not only does Rattle Trap make great baits, but to work for Bill Lewis, you've got to know a little something about fishing, and old Ken does a pretty good job with that. Today we're going to be fishing in Louisiana on Lake Calcasieu. Now, Calcasieu is an inland saltwater fishery that is just a tremendous speckled trout and redfish fishery. Today we're going to be catching them on some baits that are made by Rattle Trap that you may or may not be familiar with. But one thing that I know you're going to leave with is the idea that this Lake Calcasieu is really a tremendous speckled trout fishery, certainly one of the best ones that I've ever experienced. So y'all stick around for some great speckled trout fishing in southern Louisiana.
Fishing with Orlando Wilson is brought to you by Bill Lewis Lures, makers of the famous Rattle Trap.
Man, fish are working back in there, aren't they? Full of mullet. And there should be a big trout underneath that, Orlando. That sure is a lot of nervous water. Yeah. There he is. I got him. Oh, that's a nice trout. Oh, there he is. I was throwing that slapstick. Look at that. Oh, that's a pretty trout. Now, he's not as big as I'd have, but he's about average size. But it was beautiful the way he hit it. That's a nice trout. That's gorgeous. Yeah, you don't come from the same part of the country as I do. That's a big trout where I come from. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Mm-mm. Clear water. We ain't but 2 foot of water. Yeah, you can see the bottom all through here. Have you noticed how these mullet kind of flicker a little bit? That's the key is to this I'll call this sight fishing. This is not Florida, it's Louisiana, but in Louisiana, when we talk about sight fishing, we got to pay a lot of attention to your surface action because we normally don't have this clear water. And next trick is not to get you a handful of hooks with these trout because they don't quit fighting, do they?
No. You know, I was here last year, Ken, a month later than it is now. And we caught some of the biggest trout. You know, they all average that size and bigger. And, I mean, we had a couple of Goliaths. I mean, just really big ones. And I thought, well, you know, that's just a fluke. We had a good cloudy day and fog and all that. Today, you know, I think, well, you know, if we catch them today, that'll be something, you know, bright, sunshine, just altogether different.
I knew you was going to come back. I heard about that. Tell you one thing about this slapstick, when they eat it, they eat it. That is pretty. I'm going to let her go.
Man, there are millions of mullet in here.
Isn't it? Just look at them. Bait everywhere,
yeah. You can't hardly jerk your bait along. That's what I'm doing. I'm running into mullet with that bait.
Yeah. What we might want to do is make a peel around this little island around here and fish the other side of it.
There's one.
All right.
Little shaggy dog.
All right.
Ooh, that's a good trout.
Oh, man.
That is a good trout, I believe. He may be swimming toward
good trout. They're all good trout.
Look at here.
Tell you
Whoa, that's a mule level.
That's a mule, isn't it?
That is
That
Mr.
could be a
Big.
gator trout there. I see he's got the bait sideways in his mouth. That's a big trout on that now. Look at that. Is that gorgeous?
Look at that. What a nice
Look at that, man. Oh,
whoa.
You don't have a scale, do you?
Yeah, I think there's one in that locker right there behind me. Now, don't you stick that hook in there. He's nice. If I can just get him without him getting that hook in my hand, I'll be a happy man. Let me see the pliers right quick.
Okay, here you go. That's beautiful.
There we are. Boy, isn't that a beautiful trout? Look at that.
That's 6 pounds, Orlando.
Tell you what.
That's 8 or 9 pounds.
You know, last year I thought it was just a fluke because, you know, they just had perfect weather conditions, you know, clouds and that sort of thing. Man, it wasn't a fluke. I'm here to tell you, these big trout live here. Ooh.
What do you think? How about Louisiana trout fishing?
Man, I tell you what, I may not go home. I mean, I might be here for a week.
Oh, my God.
This is just unbelievable.
Beautiful, beautiful. Put a bend in your rod, won't it? How do you compare these to fighting big bass? What do you think?
I'll tell you what, they're scrappers. Man, this is fun. Yeah, I mean, you folks at home, I mean, you've got to come and try this speckled trout fishing. This is unbelievable. That guy's got one on.
Yeah, sure does.
Ooh, that's a nice trout.
That's a big trout. Look at that. Yeah. From right here, you know, when a man picks up a trout that big and you can see the size of them, it's pretty impressive. See where that swirl was right there?
Mm-hmm.
Move right into there.
There he is. That's the boat.
Hey, you're trying to get that. Oh, man. Look at that head shaking. That is a beautiful trout.
Get that thing out of my mouth.
Look at that. He hit it at the boat, Orlando. I really was not even ready for that. I was fixing to pick my bait up and go cast again.
Oh, man, that's pretty. I believe I'm warming them up with this shaggy dog, and then you're catching them on that slap
Look at the
stick.
color on that fish, will you? It's a beautiful color.
Man, I'm telling you.
And be still for me. Look at that. Orlando, that's 5.5 pound trout.
Yeah,
in terms of bass, I think for us who do both, love to bass fish and love to trout fish, something I want to point out to everybody is in terms of bass, this would be considered about, if this is a 5.5 pound trout,
about an 8 pound largemouth.
About an 8 pound largemouth, you're right.
So we're catching, and at home it would be considered bigger than that.
And they got this bait. I can't even get it out of them. There you go, sweetie. I'll tell you what, that's a beautiful trout. And again, the nets, not having the netting in here for these trout is what's creating this awesome fishery.
Yeah, I mean, a few years ago, you didn't have trout that size.
You didn't have
in catchable numbers.
Our average trout a few years ago was maybe 3, 2 maybe.
Yeah.
You catch a 3-pound trout and you're proud of that. Now, what have we had, 2, around 5 maybe? Then you got to rest afterwards because your heart rate's about enough to give a heart attack because they just annihilate it.
Yeah, he got another one over there.
Another one over there. He's a big trout.
This week's Tackle Box Tip is brought to you by AutoZone.
You know, fishing a spinnerbait, many times you're going to have fish strike at the spinnerbait that you seemingly can't catch. Well, there's a couple of different things you could do to improve your chances of catching those short striking bass. One is to trim your spinnerbait skirt back a little bit, and you want it just long enough, as short as you can make it, is just long enough to cover the hook. So you can see here how much excess we have hanging off below the hook. I can take a small pair of scissors and just keep trimming this skirt back till I get closer to the hook point. The other thing you can do is to add a trailer hook. Now, usually I prefer adding a trailer hook. In this case, I just use a big eye trailer hook that you can pick up at nearly any tackle store. And then I've cut off a short piece of surgical tubing. And I'm going to insert that surgical tubing right over the eye of the hook, just like that. And I'm going to place the hook point of the spinnerbait right through the eye of my trailer hook. Now that rubber is going to make that trailer hook stand up straight and not be flopping around. If it's flopping around back here, it's going to catch on anything that's floating in the water, especially if you're fishing shallow water cover, which most of the time you are with a spinnerbait or a buzz bait. But it allows the hook to ride straight without flopping around. And of course, turn the hook point up. That makes it more weedless. If you're fishing in where you don't have cover, it's pretty much a clean bottom, you can turn the hook down. It really doesn't matter. You know, and I've also seen guys stick another trailer hook behind that one. So anyway, a couple of things. Trim the skirt, add a trailer hook. That'll catch more fish for you.
You're watching TNN Outdoors.
Fishing with Orlando Wilson is brought to you by Bullet Weights with Ultra Steel.
You threw right behind that flake, didn't you?
Yeah, he's right out there in that calm water.